Hello, I'm James Dean Bradfield from the Manic Street Preachers, and you are watching Whiskey Soda TV.
Okay, first of all, I've got a question out of personal interest.
Okay.
I've seen you playing live twice,
Yep.
and on both shows there was no encore.
Yeah.
Do you never play them?
We've only ever played an encore once in our lives. We just didn't believe in it from the start. I suppose kind of when we were young and full of righteousness, and we thought that everything that came out of our mouths was the truth and right. We just believed that it was a false gesture. It was too reciprocal, and that it was too vaudevillian. It was too showbiz. We just felt that kind of a concert should be something which either had a violent point that you came to, or it didn't, and you couldn't refabricate that. You couldn't come back to it. I mean, in the past, we used to get into trouble when we did that because at the start from 1990, some of our sets were only like 35 minutes long, and then people would just be like, "You motherfuckers, why you've played like 7 songs and no encore, you know, fuck you." And we just sustained this kind of insulting barrage from audiences for years until it became apparent that we were doing it for a reason. And rightly or wrongly, it just always felt right for us. You know, when we play a headline gig of our own now, usually we play for about hour 50, hour 45 minutes. So hopefully there's no need for an encore. But we just always felt like things came to a peak, and it would just be too much of a showbiz gesture to come back on stage and go, yada yada yada, thank you so much, you smell beautiful, this is Nick, this is Sean, this is James, and this is the final 2 songs. It was just something in our heads as a notion, and it kind of stuck.
Okay, so let's talk about your new album, right? The lyrics on that Journal for Black Lovers were written by Richie James Edwards about 14 years ago, or even longer. Why do you only release them now?
Well, I suppose, you know, the starting point is the aftermath of Richie's disappearance, I suppose. Before he went missing, he left us very shortly before he went missing. I think it might have been 3 to 2 weeks before he went missing. He gave myself, Nick and Sean a booklet of 3 lyrics, 3 booklets of lyrics, all identically the same. And there were booklets that were made up of collages of art and bits of poetry and other people's writing stuck inside with all these lyrics that he'd written and finished. So it's kind of obvious that he wanted us to eventually do something with the lyrics, because I think he planned his disappearance. You know, I think it's quite obvious. So for years and years, we realised that perhaps we had a responsibility to one day fulfil the fact that he bestowed the lyrics with us before his disappearance, and that we should do something with them. But we had to wait a long time. You have a lot of natural feelings inside that when you open the booklet down the years, you would look at it and you could admire the lyrics, and you could find them puzzling, you could find them confusing, you could find them informative, but you felt kind of scared about doing anything with them because there was a sense of responsibility. And it took years and years and years for me to one day get them out of a drawer and to start going through them. And suddenly I couldn't stop turning the pages. I started getting lots of ideas. And I said to Nick, you know, I think we should try and attempt to make a record out of this, because we know that we should one day. There's a sense of responsibility that, you know, that he left them to us, and we should do something with them. And I feel ready, and he felt the same. And I think we had to let a lot of time elapse for us to actually just get to that natural point where we didn't feel scared about the challenge that it set us, I suppose. And yeah, I think that the most overriding emotion was that we had a sense of responsibility towards him, I suppose. And then there was the kind of selfish aspect of realising that it was a creative challenge to actually do it as well.
And as you say, that it was a big responsibility to work with that. How much freedom did you give yourself to put these lyrics into music?
I had to give ourselves lots of freedom because, you know, I can't disguise the fact that Richie exists on a higher intelligent plane than myself. Not as Nick, because him and Nick were very much soulmates because they used to write lyrics together, etc. And they went to university together. But we had to give ourselves complete freedom because in the past, you know, if Richie would give me a lyric, inevitably sometimes there would be a reference that I didn't understand, and I would have to say to him, "Can you explain this to me, please, before I attempt to sing it or write music to it?" And of course, he's not around for me to do that now. So we had to just trust our instinct. We had to trust the fact that we'd been in a band with him, we'd written songs with him, we'd travelled around the world with him, we travelled in tiny vans with each other, we'd done gigs at the start where people wanted to kill us. You know, we knew each other very, very well. And we had to trust that our memory of him would lead our instinct down the right path. And there were certain lyrics in this booklet that we realised that were perhaps too dark and too personal to put to music. It would have been, I don't know, it would have almost been, to use some of the lyrics, it would almost have been too destructive, I think. And we trusted ourselves to pick the right songs and to make the right choices musically. But you literally had to sit there with the lyric and just see what channeled through you. I'm not a spiritual person, I'm not, you know, superstitious or anything, but it almost felt like that. You had to almost just let the lyrics speak to you and just see what came out. And I think when we were doing this, you know, we committed to not writing any singles. We committed, you know, we haven't made a video or anything, or we might do, but there are no singles on it. It's not an escapist album. It's a song about, it's an album about doubt. Whereas the Holy Bible was about disgust, this is about somebody who just doubts everything in humanity itself, or in himself. And we realised that kind of the record company are probably going to struggle to get their heads around this. And so we just thought we'd make things easier just by writing all this down.
But you can relate to these lyrics because
only some.
Yeah, they were written like 14, 15 years ago, and
yeah,
you were in your 20s, and now you're in your 40s, and
you
know.
But there are only some. I mean, I'd be a liar if I said I connected to all of them. And that's part of the intrigue. That's part of actually when you live inside a song and you're still trying to understand it as you sing it. It's kind of interesting. It's unique, really. But you've got to admit defeat sometimes. Like, I don't really understand what Jackie Collins' Existential Question Time is about. I have a vague notion what I think it might be about, but I can't say. I definitely think I know what This Joke Sports Severed is about, but even then, I can only say I think I know what this is about. But I can't ask Richie for him to clarify it. He might go, "No, you fool," you know. So you've just got to enjoy the process of actually just being intrigued by it and hoping that you're getting things right.
Okay. What's the idea behind using these lyrics? Is it like that you want to get Richie sort of back to your band, or show that he's still part of your band, or is it?
No, it was something that felt that was inevitable, really, from the day that he went missing. Not the day he went missing, not the very day, but when it became apparent that he wasn't coming back anytime soon. It's a bit. It sounds like I'm being an amateur detective. But when you realise that kind of he was in control of his own emotions when he disappeared, he knew what he was doing, and that he prepared himself for it. You know, he left us these lyrics, and it's as simple as that. There was just a sense of responsibility that if we don't do it now and we feel ready, when are we going to do it? And there was there's deep down, personally, I suppose there's a slight element of it being a tribute to Richie in a way, which sounds a bit mawkish and a bit over sentimental. Didn't feel like that when we were doing it, but it does feel like there's an element of that. It does feel like there's an element of us still being impressed by him, or us still wanting to please him, I suppose. And it's our final chance to do something like that, because there's nothing else after this. So.
Okay, and is this also some kind of therapy for you, some way of dealing?
No, I don't think so. I gotta say, I would see why people might think that, but I don't believe in the American notion of closure. I don't believe that everything has to have an answer, and I don't believe that you have to reconcile your emotions. We got left with a situation which has gone on and on and on over these times, and it's over 15 years now, and it is what it is, as they would say in a mafia film. You can't. I mean, Americans have tried to con us that you can get closure on things and then you can move on. well, I don't think you have to get closure on things to move on. We've just got to accept situations, and you've got to let your ego subside and make yourself realise that you can't sort everything out. You can't find answers all the time. As simple as that. So it wasn't therapeutic, it was enjoyable. It was a challenge.
You mentioned the Holy Bible, and it's said that this album is some sort of successor to it. Do you think so as well?
I think it's a natural conclusion. I don't think it's a follow-up. There are echoes. I mean, from the artwork, you know, the Jenny Saville painting, because she provided the painting on the Holy Bible as well. I think there are echoes of there are not many concessions to commerciality on it. And I think, you know, there are echoes of absolute and utter resignation. It's hardly the record that you probably should be releasing in an economic downturn. You know, people want escapism, and we are providing murky kind of truth. There are echoes of the Holy Bible, but it's not as angry. It's not as angry. Holy Bible is very much more a disgusted record, and this is very much more almost serene in its resignation and doubt about everything. So it led us to slightly calmer places in the music, I think.
I've got the impression that the music is much more back to the rock music than
There's a wee bit. Not Lifeblood, I don't think. I don't think Lifeblood, because I think Lifeblood was recorded in a completely different way. Almost like a virtual, clean, cold version of us. Whereas this was pretty much performed live. You know, the guitar, the bass and the drums, the initial track is all done live without many takes with Steve Albini. But there's definitely a rock angle to it, but stuff like Peeled Apples still has influence by Magazine. Stuff like All Is Vanity still has like Minutemen, kind of is directly kind of inspired by the Minutemen to a certain degree. And you have stuff like Journal for Plague Lovers, which is inspired by Rush a tiny bit, which is, I'm just showing my age, I'm an old heavy metal head. It's a rock angle to it, but there's still an angular kind of like post-indie thing to it as well, I think.
Okay. You also mentioned Steve Albini.
Yeah.
Was that the first time that you worked with him?
Yeah, no, it was, yeah. I mean, well, we chose him because we knew that Richie, we'd actually discussed working with him when Richie was around. And he produced some records which I love. You know, he produced, you know, Joanna Newsom record. Obviously, he produced In Utero. Obviously, you know, the Pixies. I even loved Driving to Clarksdale, you know, the Page and Plant record. But he's somebody that takes. He's somebody, and I love one of his group's albums. Steve Albini plays in a band called Shellac, and it's the 1000 Hertz album, which I think sounds amazing. You know. But he's the way he works in the studio is very utilitarian. There's no spare meat. You don't do many takes. You record onto tape. You know, there are not many overdubs or anything like that. And he wears an overall in the studios. He doesn't have breakfast. He doesn't have lunch. He's never on the phone like most producers. He just works. He loves microphones. He just talks and kind of like looks at microphones and says, "See this microphone? It's a piece of shit, but this one is beautiful," kind of thing. And there was something about, I think we chose him because we didn't want anybody to fuck with the songs. We didn't want anybody to produce them. We wanted somebody to engineer them. We wanted somebody not to. He's notorious for never ever changing the arrangements or having musical ideas. He just tries to get what he thinks is the best sound for the group. And I love working with him. I really did. Though he's a very straightforward guy. He never goes, "Hey, I love you guys." It's a bit of tough love going on.
And the painting on the cover, what does it exactly show?
It's weird. This is something that's really confused us in the last 2 weeks or so. What's the name of the character in Watchmen? Do you know? Do you know the Watchmen? What's the character with the map? Rorschach. You know the Rorschach tests? You know, the butterflies and stuff, the psychological tests? That's where the name is from, isn't it? Yeah. And I think we have failed the Rorschach test here because Jenny Saville did the original painting for the Holy Bible, and she was brilliant. She's a famous artist in it, and her paintings sell for like £500,000 sometimes. She's an unbelievably successful artist. But back when she was younger, she gave us the painting for the Holy Bible for free. And we wanted some kind of continuity, so we knew of this painting's existence. And for some continuity, we asked her if we could use one of her paintings again. And she was just like, "Absolutely fine, have it for free," which is unbelievable. You know, the legal hurdles you have to go over when you communicate with people these days is unbelievable. And she was just like, just have it, I don't care. Which she's amazing. I love her for that. But when I first saw this painting, I just said, Nick said, what about this one? And I said, that's perfect. That looks like somebody who is just running out of oxygen. They look like they're tired. They look like they're confused, and they look like they doubt what they see, which is in front of their eyes. It suits a lot of the sentiments and the lyrics, and I just thought it was a beautiful painting. And since people have started seeing it in the last 2 weeks, people have said, "Why did you choose this? This is a young boy who's been beaten up with blood dripping from his face," and I never saw the blood. It's really it's kind of. I just thought it was a beautiful painting. Because I'm used to Jenny Savile's brushstrokes. It's very much like a more extreme Lucian Freud, where she uses colours in a way you don't expect to see sometimes. And I never saw that this could be blood. And only when people have started saying it, I've seen it. So I've failed some kind of weird psychological test. I just saw something which was beautiful and resigned with a hint of menace. And but now people have said it, I can see that I was completely blind to the blood. Which is weird. Yeah, it's not amazing. It makes me stupid. But there you go. But I thought it just seemed to suit so many of the sentiments in the songs. And it's not a young boy, it's a young girl, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it had an androgynous quality to it, which suits Richie too, you know. So that was the reasons for that.
Okay. And you released the original demos on a second CD. Coming with that?
Yes, so there are some versions, etc. Yeah.
These are the demos you started
Yeah.
like 2 years ago.
Yeah, most of the demos are very, very simple because sometimes we make our demos too good and we can't get them any better. So this time we made the demos very bad so we could get the end result better.
You and Nicky both released a solo album
2
or 3 years ago. Will there be another one?
I hope not for a while. I don't want. I mean, I enjoyed it, but it was like taking a holiday from the Manics, which we needed after Life, but because we doubted whether we had a creative instinct anymore. No, I love being in the band because I've known Nick since I was 4 years old. Sean is my cousin, and obviously we've got the Richie thing. And I love being with them. I love playing music with them. You know, absolutely. I miss it when I'm not, you know, say if we're taking a 6 months break, I go insane kind of thing. So, no, if we end up doing a solo record, it means that Nick and Sean have said, oh, I need to take a break and look after my children or something, you know, which would be fair enough.
So when will you be on tour in Germany?
Not sure yet. I mean, I'd freely admit, I don't know how, this is not the most commercial album ever. A lot of our audience that bought our last record would probably not buy this. I'm not sure how many people would come to see us in Germany play this, so we don't know yet. I don't know.
Okay, thank you very much.
Cool.
It was a pleasure.
Pleasure, it's lovely. Thanks.